They weren't built in Detroit, they weren't blessed by corporate boards, and in some cases, they weren't even legal. This was the underground of the muscle car world, a shadow market where local dealerships bent the rules and gave ordinary street cars forbidden power. Forget factory options. These machines were tuned in back rooms, sold through whispers, and in some cases, destroyed corporate reputations. Today, we're diving into 10 dealer-built muscle cars so outrageous, you'll think they were myths. 1. Yenko Camaro. Imagine walking into your Chevy dealer in 1969 and driving out with a 427 big block Camaro, an engine you couldn't even order from the factory. That's the Yenko Camaro. Don Yenko knew the system, and he knew how to break it. He used Chevy's COPO program, a loophole meant for fleet vehicles, to stuff Corvettes L72 427 into Camaros. Result? 425 horsepower on paper. But everyone knew it was more like 500 horses snarling under the hood. The Yenko badge wasn't just a logo, it was a warning label. This was the Camaro Detroit didn't want you to have, but Yenko gave it to you anyway. 2. Royal Pontiac Bobcat. Pontiac sold the GTO as the great one, but Royal Pontiac in Michigan made it something darker. With their Bobcat package, they took a 389 GTO and tweaked timing, rejet carbs, opened up heads, and played with fuel flow. It looked stock, but Royal's customers knew they were buying a street assassin. Magazines of the time claimed Bobcat GTOs could embarrass Hemis in stoplight battles. And here's the kicker. Pontiac's own execs secretly loved it. Royal Pontiac became their unofficial skunkworks, proving the GTO could punch even harder than corporate rules allowed. 3. Baldwin-Motion Camaro. Baldwin Chevrolet in Long Island teamed up with Motion Performance, and together they created factory-backed insanity. 427 Camaros tuned to guarantee 11-second quarter miles. Shark-nosed Phase 3 Corvettes pushing 500 horsepower. Joel Rosen, Motion's mad scientist, would hand you a car and a promise: if it doesn't run the quarter in the advertised time, bring it back. I'll fix it for free. That was more than marketing. It was a dare. And it got the government's attention. By the mid-70s, federal agencies were breathing down Motion's neck, worried their cars were too dangerous for the street. Translation? They were just too good. 4. Nicky Chevrolet 427 Camaro. Nicky Chevrolet in Chicago was one of the first dealers to drop a 427 into a first-gen Camaro. These weren't carefully tuned engineering projects. They were brutal street cars built for customers who wanted to smoke Mopars before sunrise. Nicky even advertised them with wild headlines like, "Wanna be king of the street?" And they weren't lying. These Camaros were wolves in showroom clothing. 5. Grand Spalding Dodge. Across town in Chicago, Norm Kraus, better known as Mr. Norm, was doing the same thing for Dodge. When Dodge refused to put a 440 in the Dart, Mr. Norm said, "Fine, I'll do it myself." The result was a Dart so overpowered that Dodge corporate actually called Norm to ask, "How the hell did you make that fit?" Soon, Dodge realized Norm was their best salesman because his creations turned street kids into brand loyalists for life. Mr. Norm wasn't just selling cars, he was selling rebellion. 6. Dana Chevrolet 427 Camaro. On the other side of the country, Dana Chevrolet in Los Angeles was stuffing big block 427s into Camaros before Yenko even thought of it. Dana cars had that California flavor, race-bred parts, headers, tuned suspensions. These weren't just straight-line brutes, they could actually handle. And because LA was Hollywood's backyard, these Camaros became legends on the street racing scene, roaring down Van Nuys Boulevard like caged animals finally set free. 7. Dick Harrell's supercars. Dick Harrell wasn't a dealer, he was a racer. But he teamed up with dealerships to create cars that were basically drag strip tickets in disguise. Known as Mr. Chevrolet, Harrell built Camaros, Novas, and Chevelles with massive big blocks, drag suspensions, and pure racing DNA. These weren't flashy billboard cars. They were purpose-built assassins designed to humiliate anyone stupid enough to challenge them at the strip. 8. Motion Performance Phase 3 GT Corvette. If a regular Corvette was a loaded pistol, the Phase 3 GT was a bazooka. Motion took the already potent 427 Corvette and transformed it into something unrecognizable. Flared fenders, side pipes, outrageous horsepower. One magazine called it the Corvette that could chew Ferraris for breakfast. It wasn't subtle, It wasn't polite, but that was the point. This was the American dream with a side of middle finger. 9. Yenko Stinger Corvair. Everyone laughs at the Corvair, Ralph Nader's punching bag, but Don Yenko turned it into a secret weapon. The Yenko Stinger was road race tuned, lightweight, and fast enough to win SCCA championships. It proved that even the unsafe at any speed, Corvair could be a champion in the right hands. Yenko didn't just build muscle cars, he built revenge stories. 10. Grand Spalding Demon. By 1971, emissions and insurance companies were squeezing the life out of muscle cars, but Mr. Norm gave us one last middle finger with the Dodge Demon 340, tuned and tweaked until it was one of the nastiest small block cars ever built. Lightweight, aggressive, and unapologetic, it was proof that even when Detroit was retreating, the dealers refused to wave the white flag. These weren't cars you found in glossy brochures. They weren't signed off by accountants. They weren't safe, practical, or sensible. They were the whispered legend you heard about in high school. The car that pulled up next to you at a stoplight, idling like a rabid dog, daring you to step on it. And they gave us a muscle car underground so wild it still haunts the streets today. Because when the factories wouldn't build the dream, the dealers made it real.